Well, when it was first announced in the US government back in late September, with the first of the supposed links to autism, um, I actually sort of like vowed not to really get involved in it, not to do a video on it. Not because it doesn't interest me, of course it does. As a neurodivergent campaigner, as someone who is autistic, of course it mattered a lot to me. But there were two things that I didn't want to do. First things first is I don't want to be the person um, to sort of fight against it um, politically. This is a channel that's all about uniting, not dividing, and getting involved politically. The types of people that are saying it, all that sort of thing, and histories and everything like that. It didn't feel right for this channel to address that. Neither did it feel right to shut them down medically, because whilst I do have some experience, personal experience with medications that have had some links and verified links, I am not a doctor. I am not, trained to be a medical practitioner. So for me to be pushing on that felt wrong. And it was actually quite encouraging to see that almost globally there was pushback against it and fight back against it, whether that be from doctors, from news outlets pushing back, going, this is unverified, or this doesn't follow um, the this doesn't follow the what's actually true in terms of the data, in terms of everything like that. But then I saw a different reaction that got me a little bit fired up, and also in light of the next autism links that came from the US government, from RFK talking to Donald Trump, and then I started getting a little bit more fired up because the, there ended up being almost this sort of blame game, and we're not here to blame, we're here to uplift, and this is why I'm doing this video. This is not a directed at governments or the medical fields or the departments of medicine in governments. No, 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 because that's not what matters to us, to this channel. What matters to us is the neurodivergent community and those that are related to the neurodivergent community. And I sort of want to address firstly to parents, especially mothers, of those that are autistic. And I wanted to sort of like give a personal experience to try and help where it can give some sort of encouragement. There was a medicine, I don't know if it was UK or whether it was global, but there was a medicine that had history potentially linked with it, but how it was handled was, it was a full-on court case. It was, it was sodium valproate. If you wanted to have a look at it, and why does that? Why am I mentioning that? Well, that's in our family. It's one of the things that could potentially have been, something that was prescribed to my mother, that where they didn't tell her any risks, and they said it was all fine. It was the wonder drug for epilepsy, and it'd be fine. And so there is a small part that could be true, that medicine might have made me autistic. And my mum, every now and again, will say that she feels guilty um, for taking the medication. Probably similar to guilt that a lot of mothers might be feeling over the past few weeks in reaction to both links, whether that be the Tylenol, paracetamol, or whether that be the circumcision ones. So this is addressed to those mothers and fathers, actually, if you were discussing these sort of things. I want to sort of like give a bit of an example. I want you to imagine that you're feeding, you've gone to a restaurant, right? You have, ordered meals for yourselves, and there's almonds in there for one of your children, or a family relative, and that restaurant serves it to you very well. They've got a 5-star review, they've got hygiene ratings, they've got everything, right, that gives you the resource that it's legit. But it turns out that what they've served you is poisonous. Let's say almonds, that they've given you raw, unprocessed almonds, which basically have hints of cyanide in them, right? Is that on you? Is that your fault for trusting the restaurant to serve you food as a family that is safe and edible with no damaging consequences? Is that on you? Of course not. Of course it isn't. In a similar sort of way, you shouldn't feel guilty if you took as medication something that a doctor said to you was absolutely fine, whether it's true or not, right? I don't know. Look, it's fairly clear that it's unlikely these links that are being described by the US government are true. But if you end up having a medication that is linked to a condition from any of the neurodivergent spheres, from any of the spheres, or um, like the thalidomide, was it thalidomide in the 80s and the 90s? Pregnant mothers took for morning sickness and had devastating impacts on the kids. That's not the mother's fault. That's the fault of the medical field. Whether that's the fault of the doctors themselves in that they knew the risks and they didn't disclose it, or the drug testers that they knew the risks but they didn't tell the doctors, that's in that field, not your fault. And all that we ask in terms of to our parents is just show the love to us, show the patience to us. What makes you a great parent isn't whether or not you take a medication that may or may not have a link to a condition. If you've been told it's safe, there's no problem with taking it. Like sort of morally speaking, mentally speaking. But what does make you a good parent is how you react to the circumstance, how you look after the child as they go from infants to child to adult and carrying on. You know, my mother, as I say, feels guilty sometimes for the sodium valproate that she took because there could be a chance that it did, that because she took it while pregnant, um, it did have an effect on me. But she is an amazing mother, one of the best. So there's no need to feel guilty because it's what you do during the 18, 19, 20 years of looking after the child that matters, not the medication that you took while you're going through a very physically demanding and painful time in your life for the sake of giving birth. But now I want to address everybody else and represent it from the autistic standpoint. What is the autistic standpoint? Not the medical, like I say, not the medical standpoint, not the political standpoint. The autistic standpoint of, well, actually, do you know what? There's a neurodivergent standpoint of finding links to certain elements of neurodiversity, whether that be for those that are autistic, for those with ADHD, for those with Tourette's, the lot. We're not interested in links. We don't care about links. We've got the links. We understand that there has to be some sort of medical field, but do that in private. Sort that out in private with the doctors and everything like that so that you can deal with that in the future. This is not announcing it to the world does nothing good. And we're not interested in links. We're interested in care, in respect, in tolerance. And this is a thing we have done this. We did this before, um, before autism was as widely known as it is in the medical field as it is now. But we always used to have it. The weird neighbour that loved trains or loved, spending time isolated. The the weird wacko teacher that always had that car that no one else had ever heard of. You know what I mean? Like the type of car that it was like, um, you know, um, you knew the guy with the weird car, not the cool car, but the weird car, right? That was unusual, and that they stood out, and that normally they were a teacher, right? Art teacher, maths teacher, right? But we've always had these people, and guess what? We showed the love and respect for them then. So all that we ask as a neurodivergent community, firstly, if you are neurodivergent, you know, show love to your neurodivergent ones, and we hope to show the same to you. But if you are neurotypical, or in this particular case, you are not autistic, start looking for what causes autism. Because no matter whether it's a genetic condition or something affected by medicine, no one from the autistic spectrum cares. What we care about is having a family, having friends, having colleagues, having comrades that show love, respect, and patience with us, show themselves to be true friends. And I want to sign this off in one way, just addressing, we've now said it from an autistic standpoint. Now I want to address those that are autistic, and it is this. If you're feeling uncomfortable, upset by the comments that have been made by the US government, by social media about anything that supposedly causes autism, whether that be Tylenol or paracetamol, whether that be circumcision, whether that be the long awaited enemy of those anti vaxxers. Know this: there is still a space in the community for you. There is still a place in the world for you. There is still a place where you can contribute to society. There is still a place where you can be an incredible human being. We've spoken about the celebrities of the world, but those are the ones we know about. I'm sure there's other people where they think outside the box, they think differently to everybody else, and they are making a huge impact. That could be you. Because you think outside the box. The thoughts that are expressed by those individuals about the links with autism, I think I'm confident in saying that those people are in the minority. They're a loud minority, but they're a minority nonetheless. On the most part, the people around you, your family, people in this community, people in your local communities, do show that love, do show that respect, do show that kindness, and do value you as an individual. So, stay strong. And if there's any other subjects you want us to discuss in neurodiversity, any of the aspects or anything like that, feel free to pop a comment below. Feel free to like the video if you um, enjoyed this rant, let's say. Subscribe if you want to hear more. And until next time, guys.